means new rules. Let's take a look at the regulations for the lockdown. ENCA's Michael Marillier joining me now for that conversation. What do you mean? Let's start with your intro. What do you mean most of us learn about rules of the... I guess you're talking about red, green, yellow, etc.
Look left, look right again.
I get you.
It's somehow a lot more complicated this time.
I thought you were talking about driving. So, Michael, I've lost track. And the law needs to be certain, and people need to know the law so that they're able to organize their lives accordingly.
Absolutely.
But we've had so many government gazettes. Where do we stand? What do the rules right now look like?
Well, here is the government gazette. I've actually got it in my hand to listen. It's about 16 pages long. So while I take South Africa through the rules, I'm going to give this gazette to Tulis some reading. You'll have a lot of time on your hand over the next 21 days. So there you go.
This is the gazette to trump all gazettes, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's take a quick look at some of these rules for the next 3 weeks or so as this lockdown actually comes into effect. We're going to start with what you can actually do in terms of going out there and moving outside of your house. Let's take a quick look at those details. And one of them, of course, is grocery shopping. Of course, South Africa has to eat. South Africa has to be able to get out there and put food on the table. So grocery shopping is allowed. You're not really allowed to go out and shop for new clothes. So it is specific to the absolute essentials, but that is some relief for South Africans. You can actually go out there and get what you need. You can also go out there and draw money from an ATM to perhaps take care of business if you are an essential service and you are running a business during this time. Of course, government trying to look after the vulnerable as well, allowing people to go out and collect a social grant. If you are able to travel during the time, you are able to go out to petrol stations and fill up your tank. And crucially, you're able to look after yourself in terms of getting the medication that you may need. So you can visit a pharmacy to and top up on the essentials in terms of your health care. And if there is some sort of a medical emergency or you are a patient who has a chronic condition, then of course you can seek medical care as well. So there are certain provisions to us making it a little bit easier for South Africans during a tough time.
You know what's funny, Michael, as you mentioned the ability to go buy groceries. In my neighborhood, at one of the supermarkets there, the sign is very clear that here are opening hours during the next 21 days. But somehow people still believe that it will be closed, and there's all these queues forming, and I'm thinking you can still come tomorrow. But the key will be whether or not that message is communicated to the people on the ground, enforcing this, allowing people to go buy groceries, because that is allowed. Talk to me about the issue of passenger numbers. This applies not only to public transportation, but to our personal vehicles.
Yeah, absolutely, Tulis. Let's take a quick look at that, because there was a lot of speculation, some talk that you would only be allowed one person per car. Not actually true. So the regulations state that you can now have a maximum of 50% of the licensed capacity, Tulis. So if a car is licensed to carry 4 people, then you can have a driver as well as a passenger. The same would apply for a minibus taxi. So you would allow half the number of people, basically, that you would normally be allowed to carry. And in terms of public transport, 5 a.m. to 9 a.m., and then 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. to us. But bear in mind here that the public transport really is dedicated to those people who are working in essential services and need to travel to their place of work, or they're looking to get essential goods. So, for example, they have no choice but to use a taxi in order to go and do their shopping and buy those groceries. So it's just important to bear in mind that the public transport is there really for the essentials when it comes to transport.
Lastly, Michael, this one became a major talking point, unexpectedly so. This whole idea of jogging, running, and walking your dog, and putting it to rest, saying no dogs will be walked.
Yeah, absolutely. Tulis, this is close to your heart as well, because you are a avid runner, I'm aware. And South Africa, believe it or not, these are actual pictures of Tulis's running shoes, which we managed to secure for you. No jogging, Tulis. I'm afraid you'll have to put your training on hold for the moment. No walkies. I mean, shame. Poor little dog. But anyway, no walkies for South Africa's dogs out there. But of course, there is a good reason for that, according to the police minister. And then, Tulis, no drinking outside of the home. This is important, of course, because there are questions about, what South Africans will do if they do drink inside the home and then they venture outside. Perhaps they go driving. So let's just hope that sanity prevails and that people aren't irresponsible after they have had maybe a few drinks at home and then they venture outside of the home.
Michael, thank you for that. Let me tell you what former President Jacob Zuma called evolution of my thinking around this issue of jogging and running. Initially, I was thinking of it according to my experience, that when I'm out running, I don't interact with anyone,
Indeed.
I don't touch any surfaces, and therefore there's no risk outside. But I then became persuaded by the argument that says that may be my reality, but runners are sociable people. These are people who agree to support each other. Look at Comrades Marathon.
Yeah.
In other contexts, people will be interacting, and therefore, once that argument was made, I was fully on board, and I'll be staying put.
Don't worry, Tulis, you can run a marathon in your living room. Apparently, we're getting word that a person in France actually managed to run the distance of a marathon on their balcony. So if the French can do it, make no mistake, Tulis Sizwe Simelane can do it.
Absolutely. Michael Marillier, thank you so much for that. Well.